Okay, folks. This is our update on the Taoiseach's visit today, Saturday, 2nd of April. So it started out at the house of Claire McDade in the outskirts of Buncrana there around 11:30 this morning. Claire showed him around the house, the cracks outside and cracks inside, and just talked about the rate of deterioration, how much that has increased over the last few months there. And there's a few blocks there left over as well. He was able to lift himself and crush. So it reminded him again of what he's really dealing with in terms of Weetabix blocks, and it never fails to make an impression, even standing watching it happen. So I think again that'll have sunk in there with him. Then inside Claire's house, we're standing in the kitchen there. We're looking at the cracks up above the high level units, and he asked for a cup of tea. Now he was a wee bit later. Claire had given us the tea before he come, but that was a good half hour around the table, and a good conversation. And Claire talked about her own personal circumstances. Really, her mother's house is the house that she wants to be living in. She wants to buy that house, but she's caught with this house, and until this house is remediated through the scheme, it's worthless. And she can't afford it to be worthless. She can't walk away from that because she needs that money to go ahead buy her mum's home. And this is the sort of trap that people find themselves in. So, we talked about this. We talked about, and I asked the question directly of him, why does it matter to the state if Claire sees this house through to completion and then decides to sell to some stage versus it being confirmed as being eligible under Claire's name? But she doesn't want to see it through. She wants to move on, and she's prepared to take a hit in her house, and she would sell that house with a transfer of eligibility that somebody else might want to come in and take on. She's in absolutely stunning views there, so someone else might want to come and take that on. Obviously, it would be somewhat below market value because they're going to have to take on the hassle of demolishing and rebuilding that home again. But why would Claire not have that option? And why does it matter to the state? What business is it of theirs if she is eligible and the house is deemed eligible and with her name against it, that once she becomes eligible, that she wouldn't transfer that eligibility and pass that on to somebody else? And she gets away from it all if she doesn't want to see it through and gets on with her own life again. So we didn't have any answers on that. And I think that's the best you could ask for. He's not going to give you a yeah, go ahead, do that. But I think we have certainly planted the seed of where it's of no additional cost to the state. Why is there restrictions in there that makes life even more difficult for the homeowners than what it is at the minute? So there are a couple other examples there to do house size as well that we can talk about here, where a 2,500 square foot house, if somebody wanted to downgrade to 2,000 square feet, well, the state was going to fund that homeowner to the tune of 2,500 square feet anyway. So it looks like if you decide to downsize to 2,000, they'll only give you a budget for 2,000 instead of the 2,500 square feet. Now, as long as you're ploughing your money for the budget of 2,500 square feet into the smaller home, why does the state care if you want to go that road as opposed to sticking with the 2,500 square feet house? So that's the sorts of things that we're saying cost nothing to the state, yet the state seems to be interfering in there and want to have a say and control all of that. So we were never going to get answers on this stuff today, but we wanted to plant them seeds because this part's very important. What was really of interest to him was what stage was Claire's application at and so on. And he really came across as wanting to get stuff done. That I would say was the overriding one for me. How to get things done. Now, we had to remind him that it needs to be done right, and he accepted that. But he said the efficiency of the process needs to be looked at here. Something's not right if we've got 6,000 or 7,000 homes in Donegal. We have about 10 houses now that are sorted out, and we have about 650 applications sitting there live at the minute. 350 of them are in limbo, and we'll talk to that later on at our next meeting, and 300 that are there for processing but seems to be very slow. So we get on to that, but certainly that whole speed of urgency was the big thing there. So it was a really good conversation in Claire's house, to be honest, and I thought that went well. I think Claire will be positive in her feedback on it. We'll see that. or see what she comes back with. But she did her own wee video as well. Yeah, I would encourage you to look at it. That's sent out there now. I think the mag page has it up, and the 100% redress page probably. But Claire did a wee one from before the Taoiseach's visit, but then forwarded it on then afterwards. So that's there. So that was that part. That was Claire's house, and thanks to Claire for accommodating us there. And then we moved on to the Greening, and we had our meeting in there. Now, things do always tend to overrun. He was late getting there, probably about half an hour late. He was in Derry prior to getting to Clare's, and then so that left him late then getting from Clare's to the Greening, and he still had appointments back in Derry again after that. So we got in there, and there was a room and all good to go. Now, started out with Charlie sort of defending his planning arrangements, and I think we'll just have to agree to differ on that one. But we did get into the issues of the day, and we had an agenda put together. We spent a lot of time, an hour and a half last night in Mike Action Group here, just working out what we, and you understand yourself, there's so much, but we wanted to narrow it down as to what the key things were. And I think, and we printed out copies, and we give that to the people there today. And I think I'll get them to send it out on the Mike Action Group page as well, so you see it for yourselves. Not everything's going to be in there, but you can't go in there with an encyclopedia. You've got to go in with stuff knowing that your time is very, very limited. And we didn't even get through it all, to be honest. But he did promise me he would read it going down the road. I asked him would he, and he said he would. So we'll see how all that goes. But one of the first things we get into is the whole issue. Again, he wanted to know why so slow? What's not happening in Donegal that needs to be happening? And Martin McDermott gave a good overview of what was going on there regarding the difficulties. And one of the key difficulties we get into, and I think he was an awful lot more educated now going down the road anyway, was to do with IS 465 itself, and the fact that it's only asking for mica or pyrite, and that this other elephant in the room, pyrrhotite, is not even recognised in there. And that the council were reluctant to issue remediation works and recommended remediation works that didn't take into account the pyrrhotite content there. So that took a wee bit of explaining. It seemed to be all new to him, and I suppose at his level this will be new to him. It's new to many other people that's not as involved in it as you and I and the rest of us that are living it every day. But he did take the time. He wrote an awful lot of notes, and did ask intelligent questions around it as well. So on that one, for example, what I'm hoping he does is to go down to Minister O'Brien and say, listen, what they're asking for here is 2 bolt-ons to the IS 465. One to cover the inclusion of all deleterious materials in the assessment, and the second one is the including of foundations. And he said he would take that back. So we'll anxiously await and see how he gets on with that. That's a massive one. That frees up 350 odd applications that Donegal County Council have on hold, if you can make that happen. And that ought to be able to be done through regulations, and that you generally a month will see that, right? As opposed to waiting a year and a half on NSAI to revise IS 465. So that was that. We talked about that. And then the other applications, he said, what's wrong with them? What's holding them up? And we just said the process is criminally slow. The amount of further information requests is coming out. The fact that everything has to be detailed to the last square metre of plasterwork inside, outside, a pile of stuff and hoops that you have to jump through at the end of the day, as opposed to closer to, a roof price, a plastering price, a block laying price, first, second fixed price, whatever the case may be, in chunks. But the level of detail that we're asked to go down for just makes it criminally slow to get things done. So we recommended somebody should review that entire process, somebody independent from the department, and see how do they get more houses through the pipe, without all this unnecessary information that's requested there. So we talked about all that. Anne Owens then done a really good job on the human story here. She Deirdre McGoggin's photographs of her house there, and explained the whole story. Also talked about other vulnerable occupiers as well, and what needs done around that. A lot of good stuff. Myself, Lisa, Eamon covered the 3 pillars as best we could, and a lot of other stuff. So just we're running out of time in video wise, but all I would say is he went down the road an awful lot more educated than what he was beforehand. I think that really stood to us today, and he did genuinely engage with us here. It wasn't just an exercise. Hopefully it pays off, and he has agreed to meet us again, very importantly. Thanks.